I don't know if it was a mother or a grandmother, but
My
she
mother
and she
passed
mentioned, yeah,
earlier
it's
this year.
a woman and it's an 8 and it's a soulmate.
Her
And she's
birthday's the 8th.
chills all around my body. And she's saying, I have to come in this session right now and be with you, Kimberly, and contact Tyler.
4th time this has happened to me this year. She's always coming at me.
Yeah.
And I get goosebumps every time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Immersive Podcast. And we are here with Kimberly Meredith, who is a medical intuitive medium. She's an author. She is a trance medium channel and goes by many more titles, but I figured I'd stop at 3 or 4 there. And welcome, Kimberly. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Tyler.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. And you're speaking to me from California today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. I always ask because I tend to be in a different place. And last podcast I did was in Germany, and now I'm in Paris, France. I have never been here before, and I'm kind of excited for it. So I'm also excited to be here doing a podcast. I've never done that either.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you again for being here. And just a quick shout out to the affiliate sponsors, Galactic Federation of Light Clothing. Link is in the bio. It's clothing for light workers. If you use the code Tyler33, you get a free hat. Shout out to Doton and Tavel. There's an episode we've done with the owners of that company. I will link that in the bio as well. And of course, Gaia TV and Unified TV. And there's a link in the bio for Gaia, and there's a link for a free trial to Unified in the bio as well. No competition here. And that being said, we will get into a conversation with Miss Meredith. So, Kimberly, obviously you're a medical intuitive medium, which is something that we'll learn a little bit more about today. Do you want to, I've looked into your story a little bit, of course, and pretty unique way about you identifying and coming about into your, psychic abilities and paranormal abilities, etc. Would you like to kind of give a little bit of background on that and what happened before you started to identify that you had, some of the clairs and some psychic abilities and ability to channel and things like that? What kind of kickstarted that thing for you?
Yeah, it was kind of mind-blowing in a way, but not, because thank you, Tyler, for having me here. I had paranormal abilities when I was little. I was born with my eyes that were blinking, and I would always do these unusual things when I was small, like rubbing my hands together and laying hands on animals and wanting to heal when I was very little. And I was always told to stop doing that from a parental figure. And my grandmother was encouraging it. And my eyes would flutter, and I would always see shadows going by, and I'd say, look at that. And I always had premonitions. I had a premonition that my great grandmother was going to pass when I was little. So it didn't completely shock me when my awakening had happened and my eyes started to blink again. The reappearance of the eye blinking and connecting to source. But I had forced myself at the young age of 6 years old. I sat on the bed and was told by a parental figure abruptly to stop blinking. And it was pretty harsh to stop this communication at a young age. And it was, so as a young child, I was already communicating with source through my young age and doing healings. I was healing animals. A dead bird was outside of our yard. I remember as a really young age, and I brought it to my grandmother and I laid hands on it. This is my healing abilities. And I was doing a healing on the bird, and it came back to life in front of her.
How old were you approximately were you when that happened?
I was about 3 years old.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. It's quite incredible.
Yeah.
And of course, for anybody who's not just going, oh, okay, anybody can just say that. Well, we'll get into a little more of that later with the scientific evidence-based medium stuff and all that fun thing.
That's your question about the NDE, to go forward a little bit.
Yeah.
I pushed it away and went into a normal life, pretty much. The normal life was going into helping people. I went into the nursing world. I went into being a nursing assistant. And then what happened is that when I was nursing, I went into the nursing world. One day never got my full nursing degree. I was going to nursing school, but I was a nurse assistant, which is pretty hardcore. on nursing floors.
Still see, still see things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was nursing and the nursing floors and helping people. And I was working hard, pretty hardcore on all these different floors. And I would go to, ICU, and I'd go to oncology. And I always was one of those nurse assistants that when they'd say, we're going to call the code, I would hear, no, they can make it. And I just would not, I kept hearing messages like they could keep going. I would say, no, we could keep going.
Doesn't
And
have to be.
yeah, yeah. And there was many times that I would go over to the families and say, I'm going to put a blanket over them and rub my hands together and say a prayer. And I'd put my hand over them and I would hear, I was raised in a diverse background. My family was Jewish and my mom was Italian Catholic. My father.
Okay, yeah, that's unique. Yeah. Talking about a little bit of guilt there. Do you think that played a lot into why I guess there was some encouragement to kind of suppress that kind of supernatural stuff, those abilities that you were kind of diving into when you were a young child? Was that a religious thing or?
My mom and my mom had an alcohol problem, and she also just did not understand me and didn't understand the communication that was coming through. And I don't know if anybody really did then, and they thought I was having, autism issues or other types of things. And they didn't know why I was blinking, and they didn't understand what a star seed or a crystal may be, or somebody that
Right.
with that energy. And I would sit up, when I was in bed, when I was a little girl, and I'd say, oh, the door. I was already telepathic when I was little. And my mom and my dad was drafted when I was little. So she remarried my stepfather, and he was very straight laced. My real father was telepathic.
Okay. So there was a family line there. Yeah.
Yeah. When my dad came back from the war and I finally saw him, we would do telepathic energy frequencies together, and he accepted me.
That's good. That's great. That's amazing.
But going back from my NDE, what happened? I was already getting messages when I was a nurse assistant, but one day when I was at the hospital, I was getting messages and I would tell the doctor, no, this person's going to make it. So what started happening is I was experiencing some information coming in
Of course.
from source trying to come in, but I wouldn't accept it because I was told not to accept my gifts as a young child.
Yeah, that's quite a complex to come over. I mean, anybody we all have complex psyches. I mean, there's definitely a lot to work through there, of course. Absolutely.
But what's interesting, Tyler, is that what's meant to be is meant to be.
Absolutely.
And what happened was one day I was working, this was like years into my adulthood. There was a woman on a floor. I worked, my God, 10 years at UCLA Medical Center. Then I switched over to Cedars-Sinai. I was working on the floor, hard floors. I remember, taking people down to the morgue. I mean,
Yeah.
not easy working in a hospital.
Especially in the major metropolitan, small town hospital versus Cedars-Sinai. I mean, Cedars-Sinai is a pretty crazy place. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and one day I was working at the hospital. This lady came over. She goes, do you want to work on a television show as a nurse? And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. And I said, what would I do? What you're doing now, but you could get paid, funds and have some fun and you might enjoy it. And I was like, I guess, but I don't really think that would be something I would like to do. And she's like, you might really like it. So I showed up one day on a show called Strong Medicine, and the director said, walk over there, hold a syringe, set up, we want to make it look as real as possible. And these are television shows like Scrubs, Strong Medicine, regular television, Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's, yeah, all those ones.
Yeah, I did a couple of days on it and I was really good at it. And all of a sudden, I started being an on-camera nurse, went to a medical technical advisor, to starting to write on some of the shows.
Okay. Cool.
I never left my job, but I stopped doing some of my studies to go on to nursing. And I started doing both jobs at the same time and ended up becoming really overloaded with work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh my God. 14.
People don't understand how much goes into TV shows. I did a little bit of, I had a little bit of insight into a show that they were working on when I was in England. And I was like, it took a whole weekend to make 3 minutes worth of television. You don't realize how much goes into that stuff if you're not, on the other side of it. It's work. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what happened leading up to my near-death experience was I was ending up, became something I didn't ever expect to have happened, which was very, very successful in the medical technical advising world. And it sped up super fast. And then I still wanted to be in the nursing world, which I loved. And then my grandmother, who I had a very close relationship with, my mother unfortunately lost her life very young, and my father both died young of tragic deaths. So my grandmother was everything to me. She got put in a nursing home. So what happened was that I was taking care of my grandmother in a nursing home. I was doing my full-time nurse assistant job, and I got my job of my life, which they moved me up to a assistant director, medical technical advisor, and writer on a very big hospital show. And I was doing all three things at once. And then all of a sudden, I got hit on foot by a car.
Wow. Right there in LA, huh? Just you're literally walking back and forth from all these different jobs, thinking about all this stuff, bouncing around metaphysically and metaphorically speaking, and bouncing around LA and quite literally hit by the traffic.
I literally got taken out. Yeah. I got taken out in the middle of everything just being like at the time of my life where I was so, it was like I finally got I was written up in the Emmy magazine as like this nurse, the on-camera nurse getting this big show and everything. So I was ready to leave the hospital and take the big show. And I ended up the worst possible scenario you could ever imagine. I got rushed into the emergency room in a matter of seconds. My life was flatlined. I mean, I lost function of my kidneys. I had subdermal hematoma. I crushed my jaw. My chin was split open. My fiance at the time, they told him I wasn't going to make it. My face was just, my teeth knocked out. It was just an absolute catastrophe.
Sorry I had to go through all that. I mean, of course there's...
Right. And I was in the hospital with all of the people that knew me.
Right. I was going to say, you must have had a little crossover there. If you were anywhere near where you did any of your business, then you likely would have been recovering around people that you were once working with, well, very recently working with. So that's kind of an added element to that, I guess, right?
So I'm in the hospital that I worked at, and so when I went into the NDE, I never experienced, I don't know how to really explain it all still, but I feel like I'm still in the NDE. I don't feel like I ever really I went to the other side, and what happened was that the other side is I know you've had an NDE, so.
Yeah, something I was speaking about recently. I actually had a couple of those experiences, and the thing that kind of sums it all up for me is I can't really, it's hard for me to explain it, like even in plain English today, but what I can explain and what is very clear to me is that it was always the same. There was always a common familiarity of that. So it's like, oh, that's the other side. Like it become a familiar thing to me. And it's interesting to hear you say that. I'm sorry to cut in there, but yeah.
No, yeah. So at the moment that I crossed over, I experienced seeing relatives that I had never seen before, because after I went over and I came back, I lost my speech, and I lost speaking for several days, and my legs were shaking, and of course, they were all working on me, but I remember the bright light that came down on my eyes and through my chest was such a hard pressure. When I woke up, I was feeling such a great amount of pressure. I mean, my aunt and my significant other were telling me that they were working on me a lot. And as I was above myself, kind of seeing over me, I was feeling such a great amount of pressure. And I kept hearing, "You're here to stay. You're here to stay." But I kept feeling like I wanted to stay over there.
I'm familiar with the feeling.
Yeah.
Your work wasn't done.
Yeah. It just took several months for me to recover and to come home and able to walk. Took even longer. It took over a year. I was in a wheelchair. And
Yeah, it's
the,
incredible.
yeah, the interesting thing that happened though was that I never returned to my life that I had, and the eyes and the light that shined through my eyes during when I was on the other side, and the messages that kept coming through over and over again, that you're here to stay. And this switch of energy that came through my body, which was, I believe, a walk-in that came
Okay.
through me, and the light that came through my eyes, I started to have the blinking again.
Okay. And did you feel any kind of, at this point, did you feel any kind of shame or any kind of, not shame, but, that old feeling, that feeling of wanting to suppress that, wanting to bury that down? Or was it kind of a newfound, I'm letting it happen. Was there no governor on it anymore? Or was there still a little bit of hesitancy for you?
Very good question, because I feel like the only shame there was, and I'm always hesitant to say this, but I think it's in my book, is when the recuperation was going on in my home, where I had people coming to the house asking me what I'm going to do with my life. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And my eyes kept blinking and started to communicate with numbers and codes. And I kept hearing messages because the guides come into the left ear, because in the subdermal hematoma, I lost hearing in my right, and I only hear messages in the left from the guides.
Okay.
And they kept saying, you're moving forward. You're moving forward, and you're accepting the gifts. And my significant other was saying, you need to stop your blinking, and you need to be who you were when I met you. And that was the same thing that was told to me when I was young.
Yeah, there's a theme there. That's absolutely.
And then he said he was going to move out if I didn't stop the blinking. And I couldn't really afford where I was living. And also some friends and agents and things were coming over and saying, you can't go back to what you were doing before. And I said, I know. What are you going to do? And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it was
That word.
really sad. And I felt like, I remember surrendering to God and the Holy Spirit and saying, God, Holy Spirit, help me. What am I going to do?
A
And
bit of a
God,
foxhole prayer, but sometimes those are the ones that are answered.
yeah. And I think it was like a matter of like a few weeks that he moved out and he left. And it was like a matter of like, I think it was like 6 months or something. I got discovered here in the house, just here at my home. And hundreds of people started coming into my apartment, and I was doing healings on them and blinking and scanning people.
So tell me about what happened there in that little time, in that short time period there. What, obviously it seems like your abilities and the blinking, I guess we'll call it, your abilities and the blinking and all that stuff was something that you probably leaned into a little bit more, once he left and everything like that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what led you to start gaining a little bit of notoriety? What opened you up to showing this to other people?
Well, once he left, I was able to move my Reiki bed into the living room. My girlfriend came over. She was a Reiki master. I didn't even know what Reiki was. And
Okay.
she like, let me do Reiki on you, because I was still in pain. And I said, okay, because I didn't want to take the medicine anymore because it was hardcore pills and stuff. So we threw them away.
Yeah.
I, we
And
started,
there,
yeah. So we started doing Reiki on me, and I felt better from the Reiki. And then I said, I have heat, heat coming from my hands. And we started doing the energy from my hands, and my eyes were blinking. I started getting codes and messages from my eyes. I started writing it down on paper, what the messages were, and organically started figuring out what spirit was teaching me. And what the agent that was my agent that I had before, that was working with me with the medical intuitive, he had been a ex football player, and he was working at gym in LA. And it started from there. And he sat on the couch and he said, how are you feeling? And I said, well, my predicament is this. And I said, but I'm doing Reiki with my hands, and I'm feeling better a little bit. I said, he said, well, I'm going in for surgery with my Achilles heel. And I said, oh, and I put my hand on his Achilles heel and I did a prayer healing. And a couple of days later, he contacted me and he said, I'm canceling my surgery. I feel much better. And I said, you're kidding. And he's like, no. And the prayer I did on him was the Our Father and the Hail Mary. And he said he didn't need his surgery anymore. And he said he had been completely healed. And at the point, I remembered when I was little, how I had did the healing, but it was so long ago. I didn't really think there was anything going on. But
little time to connect the dots there, I guess. Yeah.
he just kept saying over and over again, Kimberly, I'm completely healed. The Achilles is not hanging out anymore, and you're a healer. And I kept saying, Pierre, what are you talking about? He's like, I am healed. And I just didn't really connect the dots yet. And then my friend Katie's like, well, you don't have anything else to do. You're still at home in a wheelchair and you're not doing that great, but maybe you could do healings at the house and not charge anything. And I was like, all right. So we put the Reiki bed in the living room and he started sending me people from Gold's Gym.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm blind. I don't really look at the person. I just scan them with my hands and my eyes are blinking and I go over the body and my eye will say, this is where something's not good. This is where something's good. This was back then. And I was kind of going over the body. So it was like a lot of people coming over and me practicing. And as I was practicing people, I was getting faster and faster. And then the guides were telling me, go in and heal people. And I would go in and start doing this thing called psychic surgery. And as I was doing so many people, I was getting better and better with the guides until one day someone came in, The Secret. She had produced The Secret.
A producer from The Secret, the movie.
And What's the Bleep? And they had said, that's exactly where I had a hernia operation. That's exactly where I had another person breast cancer. That's exactly where I had meniscus tear. They're confirming all of this stuff.
Right.
And over again. And I would be doing the surgery and going my hand, or there'd be a breast lump and it would dissolve off instantly.
Like something, yeah, just thinking in real time like that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm just doing what they're telling me. So they'll say, go here and do it. And I just do what they say. And I would go across and just do what they say. And then finally, one woman, I was getting very low on money because I wasn't charging, called me from Virginia. And she said, would you like to come to Virginia and do an event here? And I said, doing what? And she goes, doing a fair. It was the first time I ever did one. And I said, okay, but I don't have a way to get there. She goes, I'll pay for your rent and I'll pay for you to come. And you're going to do this in front of people. And I said, but I like to say the Hail Marys to Our Father and lay hands while I pray. And she said, that's what Edgar Casey. I said,
Right.
Who's Edgar Casey? And she said, he's a medical intuitive. You're a medical intuitive. And I said, well, that sounds great. I said, I'll go.
I've been not making the Edgar Casey tie-in on my own this whole.
So that's sort of like where the story went. And then after that, more and more people started finding out about my work. And then I got calls from SciTech and
Right. And that's where, and the person that I think is probably the biggest name in that group. There was Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who's, I forget what number, but he was one of them. He's been to the moon. And in the disclosure circles, I mean, he's actually very well renowned, very well known because he's done research that's a little bit atypical. He's spoken on things that are a little against the mainstream. Not that he's speaking out against the mainstream, was speaking out against the mainstream. It's just, he seemed, of course, I never met him, but he seemed like somebody as a scientist that I respected that was willing to go just do real science and understand things that maybe might not have been popular in the mainstream and the zeitgeist at the time. So that was, how long were you doing these, these healings for people in public and things like that before, I guess, some of these institutions like IONS and things like that started to, notice? And how was that first contact made from one of those agencies where they really wanted to actually study your abilities in an empirical sense?
Great question. So everything just kind of organically happened that by the time I started getting better, were enough that I could fly without the wheelchair. I still was flying with wheelchair and recuperating as the guides were moving me into this dimension of being publicly known out of the house and moving into these opportunities where people would be seeing me work. It was a few, maybe not long. As we know, when the guides want you seen or the work to be known, they will move you fast after you go to the other side and come back, and they're sending masters or making the work known. So we're saying I got out of the hospital 2013, 14, 15. I went to Virginia in 15, 16, 17. 17, I was at the expos already being seen. So 17, I was discovered in 18. And look how soon we are right now. So
Yeah, we're getting close.
Yeah. So I was in SciTech in 18.
Okay.
19, 20, I was at Ions, and 21, 22, my book was published. So they're moving me very, very fast for my body to keep up with it. And it's fast spin for me to keep with all the thousands of people I've laid hands on, and they are spinning this out fast. They saying by 2034 we'll have a full awakening and shift. The reason they brought me to Ions and SciTech and Norm Shealy, who created the Holistic Institute, I got to spend time with him before he crossed. He called me immediately to get me to his facility.
Amazing.
That's me, to get this work on the map. I feel it's very important before 2034. That's the cutoff. That's an important date.
2034. Okay.
At the Los Angeles Conscious Expo, one of the producers, which was amazing, massive shift there that happened, I put her on the table and dissolved a tumor about that big off.
With
And that was the
people
public.
there.
Yeah, that was they like to do it in front of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a bit more of an effect. Yeah, it's cool.
They like to show the
That's
work.
incredible.
Yeah,
Wow.
show the work. But that's when the publishers were there too.
Okay. And that book that that picked up a little bit of steam, can you want to remind the audience of the name of that book and where they can find that?
It's called The Awakening to the Fifth Dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's of course available on Amazon and probably other shoot-offs by sites and all that, but Amazon is certainly available. And what is your website called? Where can people find your information and things like that? By the way, while I'm on the topic of mentioning websites.
Yeah, the guides channeled they wanted it to be called the Healing Trilogy.
The Healing Trilogy.
Trilogy.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we link that in the bottom and everything like that. I was just thinking, well, I mentioned Amazon. I got to at least mention her website. Yeah, absolutely. So that's amazing. And was your book something that you channeled also? Was that something, do you remember writing that book? Is it something that's something you channeled in trance, or was it something that you consciously wrote, or both?
That's a really amazing thing to ask me. So I started writing it in a recorder when I was home in my room recuperating. The guide told me to start recording the experience that was happening. And I wrote half of it in the recorder. And then I was on a radio show one day doing readings. And I got called from a publicist, and she said, I just heard you on the radio and you discovered breast cancer in a woman. Do you have a book? And I said, I have half a book. She said, can you get that to this agent? We need to see about getting you published. And I said, I'll see about that. And I had the most incredible experience with this man. And he decided to fly me to New York. And I went to New York and I met a publishing company, and we felt that this needed to get out. And we put the research, and I'm sorry, I'm emotional.
No, it's okay. No need to apologize at all.
Yeah. So we put the research together to get this book out.
Proud of you for I guess that seems like that book coming out was kind of a full circle moment for you, a big milestone in a sense, almost that moment where you got to share your gifts with the world, and not just in front of people and at a conference or an expo here, but in a form that's going to it's permanent. A book is something that's when published with it, the number and all that, it's concrete. Your work, part of your story was out there. Was that kind of, am I kind of at least in the right spot
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. It's so cool because not only did mainstream publishers put it out, but also what's so cool about it, and I'm like thanking them, is that it got picked up by Hay House, but also Macmillan and Penguin, but they published, which is
Big
so
ones.
so awesome, miracle healings. And they published things that normally probably wouldn't be published. And 9/11 firefighter is in there, breast cancer survivors, and they published holistic health practices. And I'm just really grateful.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm grateful too, because that's something that I'm passionate about, holistic health and all. And for a while I was more on the, when I was a little younger, even some years ago, not too many years ago, I was a little more on the angry militant against the AMA and the petrochemical industry and all that kind of thing. But that's withered away into more of just a passion for holistic health and wellness and education. And no, just pushing forward with the good rather than, focusing on fighting the bad, so to speak. The way to fight the bad is just to do good. And that's the way.
Exactly. And also, I talk about joining together with Eastern and Western medicine because I work
Yeah,
with doctors and
of
I have a lot
course.
of doctors that refer people to me and they come to me. And I love Western medicine and Eastern. And I love talking about the right kind of vitamins to take. And like with water, make sure you drink water that has a filter or drink spring water and make sure you put a.
Basics.
So this is really an important book. It's not a hard book to read, and it's audio also. So you don't like to read a book and you want to listen to
You can
audio.
listen.
It's just you have to listen to my voice because they let me do the
They'll let
audio.
you do the audiobook. Hey, well, that's their call. That's what they do. So it wasn't the worst call ever. Let the professionals make their decisions, and we'll let them lie where they may. I'm proud. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. And I'm honestly, it's all actually. When you think about it, here 2015, but it's a lot's happened since 2015, 16, 17. We're in different worlds. A lot of people theorize that time has sped up, etc. At least our perception of time, our relation to time. I don't want to make a claim on that, but I do feel a definite sense of shift, a definite sense of change. And it's something I've been asking a lot of people lately. And you mentioned that year 2034, that date 2034. I've asked people if they think that we're in even just an ascension lifetime, or if it's something that might be a little more gradual, something that's not something to look forward to now, so to speak. And I would consider now 2034. That's just around the corner. It really is. You want to elaborate on that a little bit? Is it more from the concept of, I guess, and it might not be either or, but is it more the concept of like I guess the Christian philosophy of the rapture and Armageddon, where it's something that seems to take place very quickly? Or is it something that we're going to be seeing a lot? Something that you believe we're going to be seeing a lot more gradual change? Are you able to expound upon that at all a little bit?
I am. It is going to happen fast. Things are speeding up really fast. And I feel people's abilities, if they want, the people that are ready to experience it and see it are going to have more heightened abilities, like people that are experiencing this dimension. So we're all multidimensional beings and we are able to go into different dimensions if we're willing to experience it. People
I
that
agree.
are not are depopulating, and they're depopulating quickly. So like the work that I do and people that experience the work that I do and experience other teachers that are doing this work too, on different levels. So like people that go in the fifth dimension, and there's many dimensions beyond the fifth dimension, but getting to the
Right.
dimension is super cool. So when we get in the dimension, like some people say, well, what's the fifth dimension? It's like being in a Harry Potter movie, or like being in a super high ride or doing
Yeah.
a field, when you get into that vibration and you see it, you witness it, you
Real
feel it.
creation happens, and yeah.
Yeah, feel it. So this is happening. It's speeding up. It's going fast. And yeah, when I say, 2034, it seems like a far, far experience away, but it's not. And so when you're meditating every day when you're practicing this dimensional healing feeling, it's not just a meditation for 5-10 minutes in the morning and at night. It's learning to live in this dimensional spin in your whole entire life. It's all organically felt. Everything, friends, lifestyle, everything is in this field all day, all the time in your life,
All encompassing.
Yes, all encompassing. Yes, yes. Not just, okay, I'm going to do this 5 minutes and then I'm going to go back to doing something else that's 3D.
Right.
Your whole life. So like for me, I eat, I drink, I live, I meditate. Everything is this Kimberly. My name is not Kimberly. That's not even my name.
Right.
I am a different vibrational energy. So say you're healed in a fifth dimensional miracle healing. Okay. You have that. Okay. Say you have like this goiter on your neck or you have a lump that's so large. So for instance, I once, not Kimberly, the guides took off. I can't ever accept that I do the healing. It's not me. So I took an energy off a woman's neck that was this large. Okay. Once. So she can't go back to living, as an example, her third dimensional life. She has to change her lifestyle now. She has to go doing a fifth dimensional and beyond routine. Now that woman can go to her doctor, she can get a checkup and they can say, yes, it's gone. But now you have to go eat and not maybe have a third dimensional relationship, have a higher vibration experience. So our world right now is a vast consciousness. Is it fifth dimensional? Is it fourth dimensional? Is it third dimensional? What do you think, Tyler?
I think it's somewhere between. I believe in the individual and I believe in the conscious collective. And I think we're moving. I don't think we're on a floor right now.
Yeah. So like they say in blinking wise in soul frequency energies as a 9, as a collective, which 9 means for my guides to Elohim, 9 means as a community spiritually, we're between 3 and 4, which 4 is spirituality, but we're not in a fifth dimensional consciousness right now.
No, of course, I wouldn't think so.
Like 3 and 4.
Good. And is that, and you mentioned that, and I'm glad you mentioned soul frequency. So is that, you want to expound upon that term, soul frequency, what that means to you, and does everybody have an individual soul frequency, and how does that tie into our collective? So you want to speak on it a little bit?
Yeah. So I started channeling soul frequency numbers right after COVID happened. And there are a path of numbers and frequency codes that come in. And I couldn't stop it. It's just coming in and it's super fast. So everybody has a code attached to them, frequency number. And we're born with these numbers and they go up into the next 10 years. Everybody had the line of numbers that they come into. There's no way to get around it. And so you have a path of numbers, Annie, John, everybody has a path of numbers. And everyone's number has a story connected to it and a mission. And you can't get away from the mission. And the mission is set in stone. But you could choose to not go on that path.
Right. We do have free will. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, free will. And certain people come to me because I've been practicing these for about, my God, 3 years now or more. And
I know it feels like when we say like that word, it's kind of like, it feels like it was so recent, but since COVID and during it, it's dragged on, but it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people meet significant others, they marry them and they're wondering, why am I not getting along or what's going on? You both have frequency numbers too together. And so people come to me and say, can you do my frequency numbers with my significant other? And don't know you at all, right? And I'll do their numbers together and I'll see why that's not working out too. Also, the universe has a frequency number. The house has a frequency number. Everything has frequencies in it in sacred geometries, numbers inside the frequency. So making decisions to do things has a frequency inside the frequency. It's so incredibly interesting.
Intricate too, and interwoven and very interesting, but also very in-depth and intricate.
So like for you, for an example, I could read 2 numbers on you right now if you want me to.
Absolutely.
And I could tell you like a couple frequency numbers for you right now. I have my paper out. So
please
if you want me to
absolutely. I was like, well, I don't know if she can pick up anything off me, but that'd be great.
Yeah, I love doing frequency numbers. So I could do that just to give you an example. Okay. Cause I
Yeah.
don't know. Well, I just met you. Right. So I could just say if it feels right or not. Okay. So we'll take a deep breath. So come into the world. I call God, which I love God. I love Jesus. I love God. I love Holy Spirit. And I also call God Elohim. So your first few numbers are telling me you come into the world, you're birthed. Okay, it's first number, second number. Oh, okay. They gave me 4 numbers first for you for right now. We could always do a private session later and do like the full 10 numbers. Okay.
Hey, four's good.
Okay. Yeah.
For a start, I'll take that.
Okay. We'll do 4
I'm just
numbers.
making little jokes here. Yeah, seriously though. In all seriousness, I do appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We'll do 4 numbers. Okay. For 4 numbers. Okay. So it's really cool. Okay. I'm always fine if it's not on. You can always tell me feel this is not right. Okay. The first number they're telling me is the 4. They're telling me you're a 4. This is the angelic number of 4 that you came into the world. You're like an earth angel. They're telling me you are a 4. And by the way, my next book is on frequency numbers. Meaning no matter what, you're like the 4. I don't know if you see the number 4 a lot, but you're like an earth angel. You always come from your heart. Whatever you do, it's not always about money. You didn't come up with a money number. You came up with like, it's always about based with your heart. You come from your heart and you like to do projects. You like to do your work, but it's always based from your heart. You're really an angel. You really come from your heart. Like you're like Archangel Michael, like you like to help, you like to serve. Like if you're out and about and you see somebody that needs something like groceries or you need to give your last dollar to somebody, you're going to help them. You're
Yeah, that's
a person of the heart.
a very accurate, not in like a braggy way. That's
Yeah.
just,
But
yeah,
you
that's
are,
true.
you're a 4. You are a 4. Like if you weren't doing this, you might have been like a fireman, or you might have been I don't know if not a police officer, but you would have been somebody like paramedic. I don't know. You would have been somebody help.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny. I've had a weird array of artistic careers and I'm in this kind of spiritual path, but
Wait to hear the next number. And I've got them
yeah.
written down here before you said anything. Okay. Wait to
Okay.
hear. The next number is the 7. Now, the 7 is the sign of Christ and Holy Spirit and spiritual teacher. So they have it down that you may become some sort of like spiritual teacher, or like you have it on you from when you were born. It's something about you being really connected to God and spirituality. Like, I don't know. I mean, you could say yes or no, but
Oh, that's something I've always, it's a little bit about just a little background on me. 3 or 4 years ago, I had a pretty high up job in a corporate place and everything. And I literally left. And my biggest reason at the moment was I said, I needed more time to meditate. And it was a multiple 6-figure job. And, most people would want that. And it was not important to me anymore. It was, I need more time to meditate. Yeah, you're not wrong.
and you're in your heart, and you're the 7. Then the next number, okay, this is very interesting. Okay, now hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Okay, this is me when I get into my mediumship thing. I get really excited. Okay, because this person is coming in. Is this a man or a woman? Okay, so the next number is a person that has been with you from, I don't know if you were young or mid age, but this is a woman that's trying to contact you. And this woman is very kind and beautiful or sweet. Did you have a person cross over? I don't know if it was a mother or a grandmother, but
My
she,
mother
and it's your mom.
passed
Yeah,
earlier this year.
woman, and it's an 8, and it's a soulmate.
Her
And she
birthday's the 8th.
feels all around my body. And she's saying, I have to come in this session right now and be with you, Kimberly, and contact Tyler.
4th time this has happened to me this year. She's always coming at me.
Yeah.
And I get goosebumps every
Giving me
time.
chills right now. Yeah. So she came in, she's on the reading.
So her birthday is on the 8th and she passed earlier this year.
She wrote the 8 down. So she's here and she's saying, I love you. And then the next number, the last one, was the sign of spiritual community, you gathering people together to bring hope and love and community. Like you, I don't know if you were like that when you were young too, but you like people around or friends.
Yeah,
And
always.
that's like the 9.
never much a recluse. Always, it wasn't for me. It was always, I want to bring people together.
You're part of that. You're part of bringing people together as like, that's a very good thing though. God loves that about you.
Very positive, of course, but I would must say, even though how positive it sounded, I mean, it does sound very accurate to me. And people who know me would say the same thing. Shout out to Jane, the producer of this podcast. She's going to see that and go, she's going to, yeah, she'll know. She's my best friend in the world, so she knows me. Yeah. Yeah, very, very much so. And, that's happened, that's happened a lot. And I identify with a lot of what you said earlier because, there's a lot about me that I don't know if I developed as early as I would have or, could have if it weren't for like, I guess a perceived family pushback to it. And it wasn't that, always cared what my family think. I never did things that my family was like, I did plenty of things my family wasn't proud of. So I don't know why I say going into spirituality and developing those kind of abilities would have been more shameful than other things I did. It wouldn't have been. But, it's funny. I always kind of felt like, and even my mother, like I was very, very, like you said, I was very close with my mother and not even so much in the mother-son sense. We were just really close. We were good friends as adults. She wasn't
Yeah.
really much older than me. And, even when she was, getting towards the end of her life, which was earlier in this year in April, I still always and I was already kind of in this world now. I didn't have a 3D job. I didn't have my friends and colleagues and the people that I saw and traveled with were people who were very much living this path. And I was kind of in the background of that a little bit.
Right.
And what seemed to have come forward since my mother's passing, at least from the other side from her, is why are you doing that? Let it shut. Why? Which is kind of touching to me and she's come through in multiple situations like this. I always kind of felt such a pushback from her, but I don't know how real that really was. But all things in due time, as they say.
I'm getting Tyler from her right now just to finish the reading when you were talking because she's on my shoulder right now. When they come in, they're very strong. I love doing readings from the afterlife. They used me. That was part of the gift when I crossed and came back. And I'm really, I'm really still discovering my gifts with the afterlife. The medical intuitive is really strong. Of course, I find the root causes of people and preventative health. But the communication from the afterlife is something I really enjoy, especially when your mom just flew in right now and is with me. When you're speaking, she keeps saying, I'm with you on your mission. And she's showing me the number 10, which is so interesting because that's going into the next, I think the 2030. I'm not good at math, but I don't know
That's
if
10 years from now.
yeah, she keeps saying 10. And she keeps saying also 11, which 11 is like going forward. I love the 11s. And I feel like she's your guardian angel. She's going like this. Yeah. So I feel like she's on your wings. And
Ones and the ones and the fours have been the
I feel,
ones and the fours have been very synchronous to me lately. Something that
I feel like she's also saying she's like was with you before in another life and she came back again with you on this mission.
makes sense. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, she and I had a very unique, close, good relationship. But yeah, it makes
Yeah.
perfect
I'm
sense to
really
me.
excited about this whole mission with you. You're on.
Yeah, and I'm excited to meet you and hear about the mission that you've been thrust upon and that you are currently on. And I guess, if I have and I just want to say I really appreciate you doing, even with whether you call it a mini reading or a reading or whatever you call it, I appreciate you
So
using your gifts for a little bit of my benefit at this moment. So I appreciate you very much so.
thank you. Yeah, just go with the flow. I love serving and helping people. And, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, if we're going by that 2034, number, I think that's something that by 2034 we all need to realize that's what we're all here for. That's the only thing we're here for. We're not here to I guess money is a part of the old system, and I'm not here to bash money. People be like, Tyler, what are you talking about? I know I spent some money in my past too. I'm a hypocrite, sitting here talking crap about money. Money's not the energy anymore. It's just not. I think that's something that we're becoming all too aware of. A lot of people have become very aware of it. And that other people I think are less aware, but on the inside somewhere, it's just not something that's serving us anymore. Money's just it's just a monetary system is just an energy, and it's you could say a form of energetic currency is what we want, and that could still that's kind of I've heard the argument, well, that's what money is. Okay, kind of bats it back at me, but yeah, I don't think that's the energetic currency that we're supposed to be passing back and forth any longer. I think it's service to others and something with a little more meaning. I don't know what that means in 10 years. I don't know what that means in ascension terms. I have my ideas about it, but yeah, I don't think it's money anymore. I really don't.
I think you're exactly correct. When you say money, my guides blink negative on it. They love the word energetic exchange of funds. In fifth dimensional terms of money is if you're doing an energetic exchange and you want to give somebody an energetic exchange of funds, like when we did healings back in Italy, my grandmother was a shaman, and she would, do an energetic healing. They would give her eggs or milk, or we have to do an energetic exchange or it's a
Yeah,
karmic debt.
of course. Right.
And so I feel like we'll move more into understanding that we do need to have funds, an energetic exchange, but I feel that it's going to be moving into a different space, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to picture what exactly that looks like, but it's something I'm excited for. It's something that I feel confident enough, and it's not confidence like I think I'm going to win the big game type of thing. It's a knowing that I don't need to worry about that the way that I used to worry about that.
No.
I mean, call me crazy. I don't worry about money the way I used to worry about it. And I mean, I'm not sitting here thinking, well, what about when I'm 50? And because what about when I'm 70? What about when I'm 80? I'm not thinking that far ahead. And I'm really, truly not. The knowing, the seeing that I have is not showing me a future where money is the dominant form of energetic exchange any longer, at least not the US petrodollar that we know of.
I'm glad you brought this up because I'm a life coach. I know we forgot to bring the emotional life,
Yeah, I couldn't fit that in there.
also a life coach, and we laugh so much. So, and a lot of people now, especially after COVID, have lost their healing centers or they've been
Yeah,
laid off. I mean, reality is, Google laid people off in many jobs. People have lost their jobs and now they're
yeah,
reinventing themselves. And hey, a lot of people are excited about reinventing themselves and doing new positions and stuff. And the exciting part about this is that they're doing more fifth dimensional jobs that they love, and they're looking at maybe making less money, but they're becoming more excited about finding their
yeah.
true abilities. Like I'm not doing something where I used to make maybe a lot more funds before in my career, but now I'm doing something that I
In the
really,
same boat.
yeah, I love being a transcendental and a healer. And so I feel like what you're saying is so true. It's like our world will be based more on love and passion and a
Meeting.
frequency of God and healing, and that will transmute finances in a different energy, and it'll be more authentic.
I agree with you there. I think it's hard for people to offer an answer to what does that new money system look, because we're not all at that collective vibrational state yet to even really understand I don't know what that looks like yet. Kind of know what it feels like, and I understand but I don't know exactly what it looks like yet. And I think that's because I'm not quite I'm not there. I'm not vibrating with that frequency just yet. Maybe it's not my fault. Maybe we all have to rise in that high tide together. Maybe it's not one person at a time. I don't know, but I don't want to, I don't want to be the one who knows. I want to be the one who helps. I want to be the one who holds hands with people into the new earth, whatever that means. I don't think there are any leaders. I don't think any of that. But that being said, there's one more thing I wanted to, of course, ask you. And I think this is important. I think this is going to be one of the things that really brings people forward in this, old and new physics, accepting energetic healing, accepting medical intuitive mediums, etc., things like that. What was it? Do you want to touch on a little bit what they actually found when, IONS and those institutions did empirical studies on you? Just, for the audience, there was evidence as far as some of the healings that you did. Do you want to just kind of share a little blurb from that, at least so people can
Yeah. I mean, all of them are different. Every institute that I studied at have different studies. They're
Yeah.
all double-blind studies of each one. Um, but each one of them is pretty much the same. I mean, a lot of what they do is they'll have a patient come in and they don't tell me anything that they have. So they will have me scan them and with my own technique, and they have the person, they already know what they have going on in their body. And I go through their body and I will write down everything that I see that's going on in their body. And I go over the expectations beyond of what I find in the person. But what's different is that I do the healing on them.
Right.
So I will often go through the body and do healing. So every specific organization had a different thing that had me do. Maybe one organization had me just doing wrist. But so if it's a wrist that I'm doing healings on, they'll see how many wrists went through and did healings on those wrists. How good
And
was
how many wrists were healed? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So all of them were.
Okay.
But on some examples, like with Dr. Sheely, he had me do readings on, 21 clients or 21 patients, but maybe only, all 21, they only knew that they had maybe lymph nodes or cardiac issues. I exceeded the expectations of knowing more than everything that was on there.
Right.
I knew that they had root canals. I knew that they had cardiac. I knew. And then I did a lot of the healing. So in the book, it tells about how the lymph node was completely dissolved. And then like SciTech, I knew there was breast cancers and they have thermographies that show after the cancer is dissolved. So every test has, because of the way the guides are with the blinking and the scanning and how they go through the body, I just sort of go through with my scanning, and I go through and I see maybe things that don't really even matter to them, but to my
Yeah.
guides, we pick out other things besides what they wanted to know. So like I'll go through and find, we're very meticulous. So I'll find like cardiac and then I'll go.
Yeah.
So I like just go through every single thing where maybe the human person, like you may go in to see a doctor and say, well, this is what's wrong with me. That's what's wrong with me. Or even a machine like an MRI or an
Yeah.
ultrasound. For instance, I get clients all the time. They'll say, I had a mammogram and it came out okay. And I'll scan them and I'll say, well, my eye, it's very tiny. I may say, well, my eye's still blinking on your breast. And they'll say, well, I just had a mammogram a couple days ago. They said it's fine, but my eye's still blinking on your breast.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the doctor and they'll have an ultrasound. Now that's an extra,
Another level.
and they'll find a breast lump.
Wow. So those things have really those are examples of things that have really happened, that there's evidence of and everything like that. That's absolutely,
Yeah, that's what yeah.
that's what
So,
you do.
right. So is it God? Is it source? Is it Casey? Who's coming through Kimberly's eyes? I don't really know.
I think it's,
It's
I
just,
think we talk about God and source
no,
and universe and all.
yeah,
It's that.
it's my guides and it's the higher beings and they all come
Right.
through and want to help save lives. So, but it's not
Absolutely incredible.
me. I don't take credit. People say, oh, Kimberly, you helped me. And my guide, this is the eye that says no. And this is the eyes that say yes. And so I don't take credit for any of it. I just honor that I'm able to wake up in the morning and help people. And I honor people that listen to the guides and go get the checkups afterwards.
Yeah. That
Follow
they're
through.
trusting it because it's, it's not just taking the gift and the healing and what seems to be a one-off miracle and going, okay, it's taking care of it and trusting in it and believing it. And yeah, I
Yeah,
identify with that. Absolutely.
Tyler.
100%.
And then praying, I do the praying and the healing. Um, what do you have to lose to pray with the Holy Spirit and God?
No, nothing. Absolutely. And, of course, I grew up in a Christian kind of Catholic tradition, not super strict or anything, but that was just kind of the tradition that I grew up in. Which I'm happy that I did because of course, God, Elohim, these are terms that people use, but, and I went through a phase when I was younger where I was kind of put off by those terms, that teenage, I guess, college, like intellectualize everything. I'm the smartest person on earth. I don't think there is a God. That phase, that spiritual sort of at least exposure to spiritual upbringing and even in the Christian sense. Kept me comfortable with that word. I've never been uncomfortable with it. And even though I personally use the word universe, that's the word that I use. I use the word universe. I use that most often. But I have no problem with the word God. I have no problem with the word source,
Right.
whatever, Brahman, Quanta, Prana, Vishnu, whatever you want to call it.
Bhagwan.
Yeah, I'm cool with all of them. You know, I think we're all talking about the same thing, or different elements of the same thing anyway.
Love.
Absolutely. Love, 100%. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing some of your story, a fair bit of your story here today with us. And, I know I want to respect your time. Is there anything that you kind of want to mention? I know you have some workshops that we were talking about before, some things that you're doing right now that you're kind of excited about. Did you want to mention those? Anything you wanted to say before we ended the conversation? Is there something you wanted to mention to the audience about what you have going on right now?
My gosh, I love being on here with you. I don't want it to end. You're amazing. It's just been so beautiful here. And I have a workshop coming up with the amazing Dee Dee Pfeiffer, called Love is All We Need. It's a support group to help people that are going through grief or needing support in these times. It's a private group. It's starting January 11th. It's on my website, thehealing.com. And I'm here for you if you need me for anything. You can just reach me at thehealingtrilogy.com.
Healingtrilogy.com, and that will certainly be linked in the bio, all that stuff. We really try to make it accessible and clickable. And all you need is love. That's great. Or is it love is all you need now? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's either one is fine.
One of those. Love is all you need. All you need is love. 111, 2025. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's with that's yourself and Dee Pfeiffer
Yeah, Dee Dee.
of the Pfeiffers.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's congratulations. I
Yeah.
think we talked about that a little bit off air, and it sounds so. I suggest everybody check that out if you.
Yeah. If you want to come on, you're invited.
Absolutely, I very well may. It sounds very interesting to me, and it's not something that I'm not too proud to say that I'm immune from having experienced those things. I mean, can all use a little bit of support in those arenas, of course. Absolutely. So with that being said, Kimberly, yeah, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you probably got clients or healings or something to do, but I appreciate you giving an hour or a little more of your time to speak with us here at the Immersive Podcast. And truth be told, I had a really good time speaking with you. The time went by that fast,
Thank you.
but it was very good to catch up. I know we've had a few little scheduling mix-ups here and there. I travel here in California, all over the world kind of thing. It's fun, but it's always great when we can finally link up and have these conversations.
You're awesome, Tyler. Thank you.
Thank you so much, very much, Miss Meredith, and hopefully we can link up again soon in the future, whether it's in this form or another, or who knows, maybe we'll bump into each other in public.
Yeah, I want you. Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That's another episode of the Immersive Podcast. And we're really grateful for you being here. And if there's anything you want to know, reach out to the website. And of course, drop it in the comments, like, subscribe, share. We really like all that kind of thing. So thank you all very much. And a shout out to my producer, Jane. Jane, we love you. Thank you so much.